What's going on, Workforce? Brian here.
Chris here.
And if you're new here or you haven't done it before, be sure to hit that like button, and or if you want, you can tickle the dislike button. It's up to you, dealer's choice. Today we're going to be talking about concerns that players are having whether PS4 support would be soon dropped, obviously in the wake of the PS5 open beta coming in. We thought we'd set some context, give you guys a little bit of history, talk about what Yoshi P said publicly. So either to, in my mind, I think to kind of alleviate any fears, but overall talk about what that roadmap, what that expectation might look like going forward for the game. But before we do, Chris, we've been doing a couple of giveaways going over into the world of Twitch, and we know we've got some stuff coming up here on the 15th and 16th with FanFest. Why don't you tell people about what your plans are that we're rocking and rolling for?
Yeah, so the last stream of last month, we gave away a complete edition of Final Fantasy supported, given to us by the community. And then we have another one to give away the last stream of April. And then May 15th and 16th, we'll be giving away lunar whales. I cannot tell you how many, because what we're doing is we're taking all ad revenue generated over on Twitch. And so even subscribers see ads over there and sometimes wonder why, if they're used to being subscribed to other channels on Twitch. That's because all ad revenue from February 22nd is when we started doing this through May 14th. And so as of last Monday, I haven't added this week's up yet because it comes in, it takes a second for them to post it. As of last Monday, we were already at $89 towards lunar whales. So I don't know how many lunar whales that is. Because we don't have a price for them yet, but we'll be giving those away on stream, and we're looking forward to kind of giving that back to you guys as a form of having, and the best is when you guys get EndWalker ads, and that is Square Enix getting to market the expansion by giving money to Twitch, which is giving a portion of it to us, which we are then spending on Square Enix digital merchandise. So
yeah. So guys, be sure to check out kind of our Twitch. Be sure to hopefully be able to join us on the May 15th and 16th, especially as we welcome more information about what the new job is, EndWalker, so much more, and hopefully get a chance to get a free lunar whale provided by Square Enix in that case, because they're with EndWalker ads and whoever else decided to run an ad on our Twitch page. So I want to talk about this topic, especially because we're seeing a lot of, I've seen comments in previous videos. I've also seen people talk about it, kind of worried, like, hey, are they going to stop supporting PS4 with EndWalker? Yeah. Are they going to, or is it the next one? Because there was a time where this game ran on PlayStation 3. And so Chris, let's do the timetable. When did the PS4 version come out? And they ended support. And when did Stormblood, when was that released? Because Stormblood was when they said, sorry, PS3 players, free upgrade to PS4, etc., or go to PC or something like that. But yeah, we're going to end support.
Yeah, so I started the game as a PS3 player, and I migrated to being a PS4 player. The PS4 came out in 2013. And it was not immediately available everywhere, and it was hard to get a hold of. I don't think it was as hard to get a hold of as the PS5 has been, but a similar thing was going on. And I had trouble getting a hold of PS4, and when I did get one, they had already, I think, completed an open beta on PS4s by that point, and they did a 1-year upgrade path. And so what they did last time was they said, hey, the stable version is releasing for PS4. If anytime in the next 12 months you have a PS3 client active on your account, and you'd like to make it a PS4 client active on your account, you can go in, and there was a button I click, and it moves my client over. They didn't have the backup feature, I don't think, working back then, so I had to rebuild my UI and everything.
They did not have that.
But we now have the ability where you would literally cloud back up your hotbars and all of that, and it would literally just transfer over. It was one directional. It was PS3 to PS4 version. So once I did that, my PS3 no longer had a use, because that was the last remaining game I was playing on it. I had moved over to PS4. And so my PS3 effectively became a legacy machine in my house. And so I was okay with that. But had my PS4 broken, I couldn't have gone back. So it was a one-way trip, and I had 1 year to complete it. And at the end of that, and then if you were to make the move, you would have to actually pay for it. So you had 1 year in there where it was free, but the transition is different than the PS5 one. The PS5 one, the PS4 version runs on PS5. Yeah. And so I don't see that being the same fear. And then with Stormblood, they said, hey, this is a new expansion. We'd like to make some graphical updates to the game. And at this point, we're moving the minimum specs up, and that affects PC players that are operating at minimum specs, but that also affects any console that falls below that line anytime that line is adjusted. And so Stormblood was when they moved that line, and that was 2017. And so at that point, the PS4 had been out 4 years. And so I think there's a lot of people seeing this PS5 version, seeing the game talk about moving the upper end, and they assume that the whole thing moves with it. As we talk about them now adding 4K assets to the game, 4K UIs, higher frame rates,
faster
updated collision
times.
detection to deal with that, faster load times, and those load times, all those things coming to the PS5 are also now releasing on the Windows version. You see the top end moving for people that have really fancy top end hardware, and you just assume naturally that the bottom must come along with it. There's a huge lag there. So for a time here, the game is just going to get bigger in the number of people it can offer an experience to.
So what Yoshi P said about the situation, especially when it comes to the PlayStation 4, I wouldn't expect that EndWalker is going to, not be on that. You're going to have the upcoming expansion on PS4. Do not worry about that. However, at the core of it, Yoshi P said they'll continually look at the numbers. So if the vast majority of PlayStation 4 players move to PlayStation 5, and all of a sudden they're looking at it and it's like, hey, less than 5% or 1%, they'll have some kind of metric.
Yeah, there's 12 of you left.
Right. Okay, why we don't need to necessarily support that. They've all moved over here, and that allows them to drop that one version or multiple versions, PS4, PS4 Pro off. And the question that I have, honestly, at the end of the day, being that you have that mid-generation step, would they drop base PS4 and keep PS4 Pro? Is this something would we see kind of a mid-step? We don't know. That is an unknown territory, because that, from a console perspective, has yet to happen. But I would bet to see, whether they'd either just drop all PS4, depending on volume, and then say, okay, now the min spec is the PS5. That would also shift the PC aspect. So they're not just looking at PlayStation players. They would be looking at PC players and saying, are we going to cut the legs out from under us? If the majority of our player base isn't playing on these new specifications, it has no value. The game can't be supported by only the Savage Raiders. The game can't be supported only by a certain percentage of,
They can see it. They can see what you're running as hardware. And so I think right now PC spec is lower than PS4.
It has been. Even PC spec was
so
lower
right
than PS3.
now, actually, so I think the other comforting thing is just know that you PS4 players out there are not the slowest gazelle here. So you're going to see somebody else drop off before you. So there's going to be a heads up coming. Yoshi P himself, as recent as last week in an interview, said he had still not been able to win the PS5 lottery and get a hold of one.
Right.
So he is distinctly aware that the number of people moving to PS5 is not even an issue of do people want to, will people prefer to, do people have the money to. Right now, it is literally there are people waiting in line, waiting in tents at the various retailers and still not getting them, waiting in digital lines, trying to queue for these things, refreshing pages, and still not getting lucky. And so I think it's not anytime soon. I wouldn't worry about it. It is a platform they have to continue to support, and so as soon as that doesn't make sense, they'll drop it. But that could easily be not only all of EndWalker, but whatever 7.0 is called. That could easily get us through 7.0, and then why is it a concern? At that point, I start to question. Maybe you guys have had better luck than me, but at that point, my controllers have started to die. At that point, at that point, I'm starting to look at moving to another console because I'm starting to have failure on my end. If we had another 4 years to the life of my PlayStation 4, I mean, my console's old, so it's not them that's dropping support. It's my PS4 that's dropping support for PS4.
It still, that just makes me just wish that we would see 14 added to NVIDIA GeForce Now as a service, Stadia as a service, xCloud as a service, where it's at some point, when you sit here and start talking about that, it said, hey, we upgraded our GeForce Now servers. Everybody got updated. You wouldn't have to go.
Everyone's 4K today.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Everybody,
All I did was log in.
Exactly. So that's where it's some of the strength, especially in the persistent online game. It starts to make a lot more sense, especially as obviously that transition will be probably over the next decade or more as the internet infrastructure improves across the country. But when we talk about, hey, remember when you had to upgrade your console? yeah, like that's going to be something that our kids are going to look at us and be like, that's ridiculous. Like, why did you do that? Like, well, it is what it is. But yeah, so I would say if you're on PS4, you've got plenty of bandwidth. I could say that easily 6.0 is going to be on PlayStation 4. The question is that would 7.0 be on PlayStation 4? And that's going to be a factor of availability of PlayStation 5s, availability of other options for you as a player. Because if the majority of the people are still on PS4, at the end of 6.0, you'd see 7.0. And then the question becomes, especially from a PC player's perspective, like at what point is the console holding the game back? And I think what we've seen with this announcement, Chris, is it's not. They can continually increase that upper limit. And the question, in certain degrees that, like obviously I think we associate the engine and some of the game design issues with like, no matter what, by 7.0, there will be people blaming PlayStation 4 for the reason why they can't have X, when unfortunately it's probably a little bit more technical than something that the PlayStation 4 can and cannot do at that point. I could see that argument in 10 years when it's like, yeah, guys, we would really like to do this, but we have to account for Bob.
Yeah, a lot of things are server side too. The collision detection stuff today, they were describing a lot of technical stuff on the server side they updated. That had nothing to do with anybody. That was on their end.
Yeah.
That there needed to be an update made. So I know I've already seen comments in any video that we've addressed the new PS5 open beta where people have mentioned, I don't have any comments ready for us to pull up, but I have seen comments, and I don't want to flag those people as people worrying or as doomsayers or as, I just wanted to mention this because, as we go into a holiday weekend, I may not be as responsive to comments if I'm, on a Zoom meeting with my family or whatever. And like, it worries me that there's somebody out there that believes their Final Fantasy XIV experience is coming to a close simply because they don't have a new impossible to get $600 console, when that's just not the case. Do not fear. Your character is just fine. And you will have support. You will get to see the 6.0 story. You will get to experience 6.1. That is not going to be the reason that you decide to take a break from 14. They still want you. They still want to support you. They just want to offer these new PS5 players something that gives them the ability to take advantage of their new exciting hardware. Mm-hmm. They've got an exciting new toy. They were really lucky to be able to get one. They were lucky to have the resources to buy one and have the opportunity to buy one. And it's really cool that they're going to have super fast load times, the ability to see 4K resolution. That's awesome for them. You're still getting the game in exactly the same state you were. And actually with the new PS5, kind of like the way when we have an innovation with NASA that then trickles out to the general population, with that, they've actually said that they believe that this new set of upgrades is going to end up affecting load times across all platforms.
Yeah, and that's the exciting thing.
We're all getting better because
everybody's
the PS5
winning.
version exists, and I don't have a PS5.
Right, everybody's winning in this case. That's
everybody's winning.
Anyway, those are our thoughts we wanted to share because like a little bit of history, and the fact is that PS4 is really powerful, especially when you compare like PS3. And I think what you'll see at the core of it though is you're going to see how powerful the PS5 is and just how good this game can look. And when they were streaming it,
haptic controllers.
That's huge. One of the things I wanted is like, because even on the Xbox they introduced haptic, but it wasn't so prevalent, especially Xbox not doing as well as the PS4. So it's like no one's going to sit here and spend like that $300,000 in how do we integrate haptic feedback. But with PS5, it's even better. Like it pushes back against you, and you can turn that on and off, and just
3D
to have
audio.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if you had 3D audio hooked up to your computer and now you're watching all these cinematics and you hear the footsteps coming up behind you?
Yeah.
Thank you, PS5 version.
Yeah, thank you, PS5 version. So I'm excited that so many people are really enjoying the haptic feedback, because I think that's a nice step. Remember when like controllers didn't have Rumble and then they had Rumble? It was like, this is great. You have that kind of feedback, and to have a little bit more of that is gonna be good, especially if you want to turn it off if you don't like it. And the fact that they give us that options is exciting. But anyway, that's gonna wrap it up. Chris, you got any final thoughts before we say goodbye for the weekend?
No, I'm excited to see what the next version of 14. They're adding all this stuff, and I run the game in 1080p because I record in 1080p because I don't have hard drive space to deal with 4K files.
Right.
But I'm excited the game is getting prettier for the people that get to enjoy that. I'm excited the frame rate's going up for people that get to enjoy that. I'm excited for load times to get faster. I think this is good news all around, and it's nice to get to record a post that's like, hey, we heard some bad news, and actually there's no truth to it. Like, not even like a little bit. It's like, no fear. all good news all the time. What a great time to be a 14 player.
Absolutely, guys. For Work to Game, my name's Brian.
My name's Chris.
Thanks so much for hanging out. Hopefully you have a good one, and we hope to see you soon. But until then,
take care.